a historian of the Italian Renaissance, and I study the Papacy, the history of the city of Rome, and the history of printing and the circulation of information in early modern Europe. The thing that is most relevant to our contemporary world is the way that I study how institutions adopt new technology at the moment of their appearance. And so, of course, in our contemporary world, we think a lot about social media, new media, the way that existing institutions can or can't adapt to these new ways of communicating. And in the 15th century, the papacy was in a very similar situation. Printing was brand new. They were able to see the potential for massive increases in communication, but they were also able to see the dangers of what would happen when critics, dissenters, heretics, they might call them, also had access to this kind of communication. Some of the challenges that they faced in trying to get their message out and in trying to also respond to messages directed against them have a resonance in the way that our current political institutions can or sometimes can't handle the emergence of new media. In addition to my historical work on the city of Rome, I have been translating an autobiography written by a Renaissance Pope. Pope Pius II, who reigned in the 1450s and 1460s, is the only pope who ever composed an autobiography while reigning. One of the interesting things I discovered is almost all of the scholars who worked on this pope in the 19th and the 20th century were women. There were scholars in Oxford at women's colleges like St. Hugh's College and St. Anne's College, scholars at Smith College and Bryn Mawr, who translated, who wrote biographies, who wrote some of the earliest histories about this pope's reign. Most of the sources were published and didn't require people to travel to original collections, and so it was a field that women scholars were kind of left to work on. And so I'm trying to write mini biographies of the women who worked on this particular pope as a way of studying a little bit more about how women historians worked in these early years in American and British universities and what kind of topics were open to them and what kind were not. Notre Dame is a great place to work on the history of religion in general. It is a fantastic place to work on the interface between medieval and early modern Europe. Our Medieval Institute is an absolutely unparalleled place to do research in North America. And a great deal of the research for my book I did on the 7th floor of Hesburgh Library without ever really having to leave campus at all. Almost every class I teach involves at least one visit to special collections where I can show students early printed guidebooks to Rome, early printed maps, early printed papal documents. And it's always a really exciting day when we go into the library and they're able to hold some of these materials in their hands and see the kind of sources that I work with and the kind of conclusions that you can draw out of a close examination of an early printed book. Last year, I taught a graduate course entirely in the special collections reading room. So we went every week and every student got a pile of books on their own desk to kind of work through, and we shared our findings with one another. It's some of the best teaching I think that I can do when we actually have those materials directly in front of us.